Welcome back to the PassBack podcast. I'm your host, Jackson Moss, alongside Cade Young. And before we get started in this episode, we're going to go ahead and plug one of our friends' podcasts. It is the 12th Woman podcast, and it'll be over on YouTube. You can check them out. They talk about anything and everything A&M sports and kind of just anything else in the sports world. Our friends Sophie and Jordan do a great job over there, so it's something you definitely want to go check out. But,
For sure.
Cade, we're 4-3 now. So I'm sure people have been eager to hear what we have to say about last weekend's game, but it's getting a little bit worse week by week here, and we're slowly starting to slip back into that 5-7 look. There's a few worries that we're going to talk about later on in the show. What were your thoughts on the game this past weekend?
I think it was probably harder to watch than any other game this year, especially after the loss to Bama back-to-back, and it's going to be really hard for the team to bounce back from that.
Yeah, no. And it's also going to set up an interesting game this weekend when we're thinking about Bama, Tennessee. And kind of I want to know if I could be a fly in the wall in that locker room right now. I want to know what the vibe of the locker room is. I want to know how they're feeling, if they're going to bounce back. And I guess we'll see, not this weekend, obviously. This weekend we got a bye week, and next weekend the weekend after we'll be playing South Carolina. But I'm a little bit worried. We'll preview it later on in the show as well. But I'm a little bit worried about South Carolina coming into A&M with Spencer Rattler. With him, he's either 50-50. He could, he's hit or miss. He could come out and have a great game. He could come out and have a horrible game. But if he comes out and has a great game with the state our offensive line is in. Now looking at this new problem with our defensive line, letting up runs, and I think it was 232 rushing yards from allowed from Tennessee. There's a whole lot of things falling out of place from where we started at the beginning of the season. There's a lot less, hopefulness and optimism about where the season could go, but. It's frustrating, man. It's frustrating to watch it week by week and see us getting worse as a team because that's been the story the past 10 years.
I do think the team is better than last year, but going into the South Carolina game last year, we thought we were a better team, and we ended up losing that game, and that is what I really hope is not the case this year. And we were right last week about Rattler having that big game, and South Carolina should have won like we predicted, and besides the 2 touchdowns in the last 5 minutes, but I digress. This is a bad loss because people were still hopeful that he would get to double-digit wins this year, and obviously with 3, the most we can do is 9 now, which is 9 wins the most under Jimbo besides 2018.
We can count 2020, the COVID year, but it didn't really count for anything.
No.
That was probably his best season, I would say, at A&M so far, and
Absolutely.
I think people are just getting tired of the same story, man. It's just year in and year out, it's just mediocrity and complacency, and I don't think people, especially the donors, I saw it on TexAg's one of the forums, that people are going to stop donating to the 12th Man Foundation, and people are canceling their subscriptions to the 12th Man Foundation because they're just getting tired of losing. And when you're paying Jimbo $100 million, he needs to win.
Yeah, that's huge too, because our boosters are really helpful for NIL.
Absolutely. There's no reason we shouldn't be an elite team right now in the SEC.
No.
But moving on to our first segment, we got Players of the Week. And, we were talking about it. It was kind of hard to choose Players of the Week. But for offense, I'm going to have to go with Noah Thomas. He came up big a couple times, had a few big catches, three receptions for 75 yards. I'd honestly like to see him implemented a little bit more in the offense. But this is a big game for him, and I was happy to see him get a few big catches when we needed them.
For defense, I think it's Torian York. He was our player to watch a couple weeks ago. He had 9 tackles, 2.5 for loss. He looked really good. My pick about DeBerry, he wasn't the player of the week, but his consistency was better, and it really did show, only allowing Tennessee 100 passing yards. If we could have just got that run game down or done more on offense, it would have been showing.
And it's a shame, DeBerry gets that pick and we can't do anything with it. And we turn right around and I think it was a punt that drive, but which, by the way, for whatever reason, Nick Constantino didn't really have the best day punting. I don't know what his average was, but there was a lot of times where we needed him to really flip the field for us, and he just couldn't get it done for some reason. And really our special teams as a whole. But moving on to our game recap segment, that's kind of where we're going to talk about a bunch of that anyways. I think the first thing we kind of needed to talk about was Max Johnson. And, you know, I think we kind of hit on it last week, and we hit it on a little bit already this pod, but our success on offense, I think, is solely dependent on Max Johnson having a clean game. If he can't have a clean game without turnovers and interceptions, fumbles, I think that I don't want to put it all on Max Johnson, because a huge problem for us right now, for whatever reason, is our offensive line. Like I said, that Bama game was opening up a can of worms, and allowing that many sacks causes a lot of less confidence in the offensive line. But what were your opinion? What was your opinion on Max Johnson this past weekend?
The bottom line is you can't win an SEC game when your quarterback throws less than 50% completion percentage. It's not going to happen unless they're dual threat. And Max Johnson had negative 20 rushing yards.
Yeah, I wouldn't consider that dual threat.
But you know, he has his moments where he makes a good throw, but he needs to do it more consistently. And whenever the receivers are running down the field, he just needs to throw it up, because he doesn't have the time like most quarterbacks do to like keep going through his progressions, and he needs to learn that.
Absolutely. And you know, it's going to be hard for Max, especially coming into a second string role, and expecting the world of him. And
yeah,
you know, our offensive line falling apart is definitely not going to help. But I mean, there's still a bunch of miscues on really both ends, Tennessee and Texas A&M. I mean, I feel like Tennessee gave us every single chance to win that game, and we just kind of threw it away. But special teams, like we were talking about, Nick Constantino, I don't know what was going on with him, but his punts were that great. Randy Bond had a missed field goal. I think he was like 66% of field goals on the day. And then, of course, that punt return, which ended up being huge, by the way, that we let up. And I don't know what it is. I mean, for some reason, we have never really had the best special teams. And you can argue when we had, you know, Braden Mann, and like, I mean, he was like a once in a couple, like 10 years kind of punter. You don't really see him come around much, but
no.
I think it's something needs to happen. I think it's Jimbo not believing in the special teams coach being its own thing. I think that's a huge part. We need to hire a special teams coach. A lot of teams have one set out to you know, manage the special teams, but when games like this happen and missed opportunities like this happen on special teams as much as they do, you got to start looking into that position and being like, I need to hire someone. I need to do something about that.
Yeah, well, when it comes down to every year us saying like Jimbo needs to add someone to his staff, maybe it just means we need a new staff.
That's right. But I mean,
not that I'm pro fire Jimbo, but
yeah,
there does need to be.
We're kind of getting there.
We're getting there.
I mean, it's just hard to be 4-3 right now, especially after going 5-7 last year and not being on the hot seat. But
yeah,
one of the biggest stories though from this game was definitely our run defense. No one expected our run defense to give up as much as they gave up.
No.
And I think we went into this game expecting a little bit more on the passing side, and kind of expected it to rain on us a little bit, but it didn't really happen.
Yeah, 100 passing yards is not what I expected, but I mean, I'll take the outcome. Like, our defense was bend, don't break all day, and I mean, when you allow 20 points, you should win.
Yeah, absolutely. And I mean, our offense is still trying to figure it out. We thought we knew who we were in the beginning of the year, but now we're just, you know, once again a big question mark. So
yeah.
But on to end on a positive note for that for the game recap, Le'Veon Moss is still being Le'Veon Moss. 15 carries for 62 yards, averaging 4.1 yards per carry. I think this is, I hate using the word hopeful, because hopeful is the only thing you hear as an A&M fan, but I do think it is hopeful to see Le'Veon Moss maybe even kind of turn into an Isaiah Spiller or an A-Chain, one of those elite backs. And you hear Gary Danielson and a bunch of different analysts talking about Le'Veon Moss early in his career, and they think he's going to be a star. And he looks like an elite, real deal SEC running back already. Once he develops, I think he could be really special for us.
He looks really good out of the backfield. I mean, there was a few times they couldn't get him the ball, like that one that Johnson threw at his feet. They weren't on the same page, even if it wasn't just the play calling all day. But he does look really good, and I'm excited for his future.
Yeah, I mean, as an A&M fan, you can kind of just feel the game. You know when you're going to lose.
Yeah,
You can just feel it. But
worst feeling.
also, I just want to go ahead and make a side note for the podcast. I think Cade was wearing his lucky socks for this game. This was discussed prior to the episode. It's safe to say that he will never be wearing the lucky socks again. He's going to have to get rid of those. But
no, they're burned.
But moving into a little bit of talk about the SEC and the SEC recap. So I think I took Missouri last week on the upset alert, and it happened. Missouri beats Kentucky. I wasn't really surprised by that. I kind of expected it. Luther Burden is getting the offense going, and he's been special for that team. But
yeah, they won by more than I thought.
Oh yeah, and I mean LSU absolutely handled Auburn.
Mm-hmm.
I don't think anyone kind of expected. I think the spread was at like -10.5 LSU. I think everyone kind of let Jaden Daniels do his thing.
Yeah.
But Alabama and Arkansas. So watching this back kind of made Arkansas look a little bit better for us compared to how we played Alabama. But I wasn't expecting 21-23. I think that was the final score, 21-23.
It was like within 3 points.
Yeah, it was some within 3 points, but I was not expecting that. And KJ, man, I mean, Nick Saban was talking about KJ like he's one of the best quarterbacks that he's ever seen. And that's high praise from Nick Saban.
Yeah, did you see him take that hit and just keep staying on his feet? That's a big man.
I think, no shade, but I think that's like the only redeeming quality about KJ Jefferson.
Oh.
It's his size.
100%.
There's not really much to him. But
no.
The SEC West kind of seems like, we talked about it last week, but things are settling. Alabama's going to be probably, they're probably going to win the West. I don't really see anyone stopping them at this point. It'll be Alabama on the West side for the championship, and then Georgia, if I had to guess, for the East.
Yeah.
Shocker. But I don't know. It's going to be interesting. I think this year Alabama could beat Georgia. I don't think they're the better team.
No.
But I think they could beat Georgia. It's just a weird year in the SEC. The only thing that's normal is that A&M is still losing. But
yeah, you're not wrong about that.
Yeah, and I think that's all about we really have for the SEC recap, though. I mean, Missouri beating Kentucky was really about the only interesting thing that happened. So
yeah,
one new segment that we're going to introduce this week is going to be the coaching roundtable, and we're going to talk about coaches that we think could fill the positions of our O-line coach and our head coach. We are now on the Fire Jimbo wave. Not actually, but we're just kind of it's still fun. But for our offensive line coach, I don't really know who we would go out and get necessarily. If it happens in this way, it would be interesting. But Arkansas firing Sam Pittman, maybe a little quick pickup, Sam Pittman, and put him on our offensive line. I don't know if he'll ever, sign back as an offensive line coach anywhere or anything, but if he does, I think it'd be a great pickup.
That'd be incredible because they have Arkansas has the 300+ pound
Yeah.
lineman group.
Yeah, that's right.
Every year.
And Bobby Petrino actually had a great offensive line when he went on his at his tenure in Arkansas when he was like the number 3 and number 4 offense in the nation.
Yeah.
Arkansas used to be known for their huge offensive line, and they used to be great, but
it was bigger than NFL offensive lines.
Yeah.
That was a crazy stat.
Yeah. As far as head coach goes, for me personally, it's a hard choice. I would say a safe bet would be to go out and get Washington's head coach. I feel like if we want to take a risky hire, I would say Dion. Unfortunately, I know everyone's gonna hate that, but I think Dion with the right program, with the right players and talent, I think he could turn a huge program around and make them a top 10 team. I think A&M has the money for him, but right now I know it's kind of rough because of the Stanford loss for Colorado and the loss to it's probably gonna be everyone else on their schedule the rest of the season.
Yeah.
But no, I'm not fully giving up on Dion. I think he just doesn't have the talent right now.
No, like he said he's 6 or 7 dogs away from a really good team, but the players will have a buy-in to him because he's a Hall of Fame NFL player, and the media he brings, he will definitely turn around a program, whether it be Colorado or somewhere else. That'd be a great pickup if A&M could get him.
Yeah, I don't know. When we were talking about this before the show, I don't know if there's really many good head coaches out there right now. I feel like it's kind of bad time to be down a head coach or looking for another head coach. But I think we've kind of given Jimbo his time here.
Yeah.
He's got to start producing something. And I think if we have more than 5 losses this season, he's gone. I think we'll pay him out and we'll get someone else because we just have too much money from the 12th Man Foundation and other guys, other people donating, and we should be a winning program with the facilities we have as well and everything.
I agree,
especially the fan base backing it. But
yeah.
So for our trending player coming up, it's kind of hard to predict it, 2 weeks in advance. But our trending player for South Carolina, I know personally I have Fadil Diggs. I think that he came up. I think he had 1 or 2 sacks in the game against Tennessee. I want to say it was 1.
Yeah.
But he's been coming up big. He's been, moved into a role as a starter. I think he's a junior this year. So, he's really come up big for us a lot of times. Stopping the rush and getting a few sacks here and there when we need him. And I've even seen him kind of play out on the edge a little bit more and kind of float around in almost zone, which is kind of weird to think about, but. No, I'll definitely take Fadil Diggs this week for the training player.
He's a big guy that can cover a lot of ground.
Yeah, that's right. He's fast. That's what a lot of people don't give him credit for. He's fast. Same with Shamar Turner.
Yeah.
You ever seen Shamar Turner track down the quarterback? Dude, he's huge and he can move. But no, I'll take Fadil Diggs. And it was actually nice because I think it was I can't remember who got hurt, but DJ Hicks ended up coming in. It was Walter Nolan. Then DJ Hicks ended up coming in. He's a true freshman. So it was good to see him get some reps, but I don't want to give up hope on this defensive line because they're still undoubtedly like one of the best in the nation, if not the best in the nation. They're still leading in sacks
easily.
Yeah, but it was a little bit frustrating watching Tennessee rush all over us. But if you want to move into picks, we can do picks for this weekend.
Yeah.
So. This weekend coming up, we have obviously the main card is going to be Tennessee and Bama.
Right.
We have Mississippi State and Arkansas, South Carolina, Missouri, Ole Miss, and Auburn. So, it's not the craziest things. As far as the SEC West goes, it doesn't really mean a whole bunch. Because, like I said, the dust is kind of settled. But for Mississippi State and Arkansas, I think I would have – it's kind of a tough matchup. They're both equally, I would say, bad teams.
Yeah.
I'm going to go with Arkansas just because of how they played against Bama. I think they're going to come off with a lot of confidence, and I think they're going to finish the season strong. So I'll go Arkansas on this one.
I think Arkansas should win, but I'm going to pick Mississippi State just because I think it'd be funny if Arkansas was 0-5 in SEC play.
Yeah.
That'd be pretty funny.
Just praying on Arkansas's downfall.
Yeah.
South Carolina versus Missouri. I'll probably go Missouri. I think South Carolina has everything that they could, I think that they have everything they need to win this game. But like I was saying before, Spencer Rattler, it all depends on Spencer Rattler and if he wants to come out and play this game. I'll take Missouri, though. I think Luther Burden's too much for their secondaries. I think South Carolina has great weapons, but it's just not going to be enough to get it done.
I'm also going to pick Missouri. I think South Carolina isn't a team anyone should worry about unless you're A&M.
Yeah. Yeah.
But, Missouri by 10.
Okay, so Ole Miss, Auburn. I don't think anyone's ever going to pick Auburn, especially this season.
No.
Ole Miss is too much for them on the offense. I'm gonna take Ole Miss, actually. We didn't do the spreads for this week. We should have done the spreads. I'll do the spread for this game. The spread for this game, I'm going to say Ole Miss minus 21.5. Yeah.
That's big.
Yeah. I think their offense gets it done. I think Auburn doesn't know who their defense is right now. And, I'm pretty sure Ole Miss is the leading offense in the SEC right now. I think it's just too much for Auburn.
I think Ole Miss will cover that spread low key because
Are you taking the PassBack pod spread?
yeah, because Peyton Thorne is their leading passer and rusher. That's just not gonna cut it.
Yeah, right, absolutely. So yeah, I think we're ready to do the main card, which is going to be Tennessee Bama.
What do you think?
I don't know. This is it's kind of a hard matchup for me. I feel like we gave Tennessee a lot of momentum coming off that win. They were at home. Is Tennessee at home for this game against Bama, or is it at Bryant-Denny?
It's a Bryant-Denny.
Oh man.
Yeah.
I'll have to give this pick to you first because I don't know what I'm going to do. I got to think about this, man. I had a decision, and now I just can't fire on it because now I'm just thinking.
I really hope it's like last year's Alabama-Tennessee game. That
Yeah.
was incredible. But I think it will be Bama. I think it'll be another one of those games where the whole entire game, Bama could be beat, but they're not going to. Like, they're just better coached, better. That's Bama. Like, we're used to it. So I'm going to say Bama by at least 6, 7.
I'm going to take Tennessee.
Okay.
And I'm going to take Tennessee because no reason. I just want to argue. No, I'm just kidding. I think Tennessee could get it done. I think Joe Milton can walk into Alabama.
Yeah.
And if there was a season to walk into Bryant-Denny and win the game and just out-physical a team, it's this year, especially Alabama, but it's this year. So I'll take Tennessee on the upset. But as far as picks go, man, I think that's about all we have. I don't really think we have many things we did over the weekend. I know we got a bye week coming up. I'm going to be going to a Zach Bryan concert. That's kind of close to College Station. So what do you have going on this weekend?
Working.
Yeah.
Watching college football. But, yeah, I don't like when my team doesn't play on Saturday.
No, same.
It feels like a waste of a weekend.
I don't know. I could kind of take a break from losing, so I could get.
That's true. This year, yeah, for sure.
But I think that's going to wrap up this podcast. Hopefully, we'll have a little bit more positive news to talk about on the next podcast. We're looking forward to South Carolina. They're coming to Kyle Field. It should be a game that we're going to win, but I think that's going to wrap up this segment. It was kind of a quick one, but next week we'll be back on it. So thank y'all for listening, and we'll see y'all next week.
Thank y'all.